Hi, I'm Carmen and welcome back. I'm at Operation Food Search in the Bayer Healthy Community Kitchen for today's episode of Cooking with Carmen. As part of our mission to heal hunger, Operation Food Search teaches families how to cook delicious food on a budget. Thank you for joining for episode 20. Today, I hope to inspire you to cook a family meal with locally grown winter produce. So I know, you might not think of fresh fruits and vegetables when you think of the cold weather or the snow that we had this morning. But from hearty root vegetables to bright, sweet citrus, winter produce offers a surprising range of flavors. So before I talk a little bit about winter produce and what's growing here in Missouri, I want to dive right into cooking. So we're going to be making some soup today, and it takes a little time to prep and simmer. So I'm going to be making a tomato, white bean, and kale soup. And our ingredients are some oil, and all of our veggies are in here. So we have an onion, a bell pepper, and a sweet potato, and I'll dice them up really small. I also added in some celery just because we had some here. And then we have some garlic along with our other flavorings. We have some Italian herb blend and then some salt and pepper. And our nice canned goods, we have some diced tomatoes, and I'm keeping those juices. And then the canned white beans and some tomato paste, which adds like a lot of great intense tomato flavor, but it's completely optional. We have our fresh kale, and then we have our vegetable broth and some water. So again, to get started, we're gonna have our large pot here, and I have some oil, and our vegetables have been sauteing for about 5 to 10 minutes. The goal is to get them soft, especially the sweet potatoes that are in here. So if you can see in our pot, we have nice veggies. The onions are becoming a little translucent. The sweet potatoes are getting a little soft. And again, I added some celery in there, but if you have like different vegetables like green beans or cabbage or carrots, you can also add those in here. This soup is very vegetable forward. You can really add anything that you like. So the next step is we're gonna add in our garlic. And I like to add this kind of towards the end of when the vegetables are sauteing, because the garlic is minced and you don't want it to burn. So adding it in just for a minute until it becomes nice and fragrant is key for this. So basically you want to saute it just until you can really smell it. And I can already smell it because my pan is nice and hot. So then we're going to add in our Italian herbs and our salt and pepper. And I like adding these in before I add in the broth because it kind of toasts and makes the herbs a little more aromatic. It kind of brightens them up because they are canned or dried herbs. And then we're going to add in our tomato paste as well at the same step here. I usually never measure my tomato paste, but it's about a tablespoon. Mine is a little more, it seems. And then we're going to stir that in again so our tomato paste kind of mushes up together and starts to get a little toasty. Ooh, I can smell those herbs already. Smells delightful. All right, so we have our herbs and our garlic all added. And then our last step before we simmer is to add in our vegetable broth here. That's 4 cups. I have those same variety. And then 2 cups of water also. And then I'm gonna stir this up. Smells delicious already. And then the last step before, we're going to bring this to a boil. And then I want to get our kale prepped and ready. So I'll add this a little later. So I have my whole kale here attached to the stem. And basically you want to pull it off the stem and have your whole stem here. And then you just rip them into bite-sized pieces. So this is a great task if you have young kids. Really any age can rip greens into little pieces. Oops. That one didn't want to function as well. But it doesn't have to be perfect because it does cook down in the soup. But you just want them ripped up so you don't have a giant piece of kale that you find in the middle of your soup. And I have this washed and ready. And it, again, you can use any green. So collard greens, spinach work really well in here. Even frozen or canned greens, you can swap in for the fresh. The soup is very forgiving to some substitutions. All right. Now we got our kale. We'll set it off to the side. We'll add that in a little later. So while the soup is simmering, I want to chat a little bit about what's growing in winter. So again, you might not think about a lot of things that are growing in winter, but as you can see on the infographic on the screen, Missouri has a wide variety of produce that grows locally. So while it might not look like a lot grows during the winter compared to the other months, let's zoom in on the graphic to see what's growing. So in winter, you can find a wide variety of dark leafy greens, broccoli, winter squash like butternut squash, acorn squash, sweet dumpling squash, turnips, onions, potatoes, sweet potatoes, mushrooms. There's a lot growing and a lot of fun different flavors. So while not found in Missouri, citrus fruits like oranges, grapefruit, tangerines, and clementines, they all grow relatively nearby in our southern states. So it's also considered like a winter produce item. So what's nice is a lot of these produce items really keep for many months, especially in a cool, dark place like your pantry. So specifically the winter squash, onions, and all forms of potatoes can keep nicely in your pantry. Personally, I have butternut squash in my pantry that's been in there for more than a month, and it still looks perfect. So there's a lot of great benefits to eating seasonally as well. So first, I'd like you to think about a produce item that you love. So maybe it's a strawberry, a peach, a tomato, really anything. So for me, I like to think about a peach. A peach at the height of summer is fragrant, it's juicy, it's so flavorful. But the same peach in winter does not have that same flavor. It's usually hard, mealy, or bland, and it probably has traveled a ton of miles to get to our plate. So some of the benefits of eating locally, first is nutrient dense. So seasonal produce is picked at the peak ripeness since it does not have a long distance to travel to get to our plate. And some studies have shown that fruits and vegetables contain more nutrients when they're allowed to ripen on the plant itself. Quality and taste. So thinking back to that summer peach or whatever produce item that you're thinking about, seasonal produce is fresher, tastier, and again, more nutritious than food consumed out of season. So even though we all like to eat a wide variety of produce year round, the most delicious time to eat them is when they can be purchased directly from a local grower shortly after harvest. And then cost. When something is able to be purchased locally during the growing season, it often means that that item is less expensive due to the larger volume of produce available to buy, but it also is less expensive due to the lower cost of traveling to get to our local grocery store or our plate. And then lastly, it's environmentally friendly. So locally grown seasonal produce can be sold with less plastic or packaging, but the main positive environmental impact is the decreased amount of fossil fuel used to transport the produce to our grocery stores. So there's a lot of great benefits to eating locally, but I do want to stress that all forms of produce have a place on our plate. Fresh, frozen, and canned produce all has their own benefits, and you can find all forms of produce in my kitchen. So now that we chatted a little bit about winter produce, I want to make a side dish using some winter greens and some winter citrus. So personally, I love the combination of a nice and warm soup with a cool and crisp salad. So I'm gonna put our kale here and clean up just a little and get my next ingredients. All right, so we are making a winter green and citrus salad. So again, with the winter greens, you can use anything that's growing in season. So I have collard greens here, but again, you can use kale, you can use spinach, really any kind of hearty winter green. And then we have some orange segments to garnish on top of our salad. So actually, before I dive into this, I am going to add in the rest of our ingredients to our soup here, just so I don't forget about it. So we have our tomatoes. Again, I'm keeping all those juices in there. And then our 2 cans of beans. So basically, these just need to warm up. And then I'm going to add in all of our kale. And this just, I know it looks like a lot of kale when it goes in, but it shrinks up so small. It's like overflowing. I'm going to push it down a little. It looks like a big old pot of kale over here, but I promise there's soup under there. Okay, So while that starts simmering away and getting warm and the kale melting, or wilting I should say, let's make our salad dressing. So this collard green salad has a nice bright citrusy vinaigrette. And we have some balsamic vinegar and honey, and then some orange juice. Super simple, and it comes together so fast. So to make our dressing, basically you want to take the zest of an orange, which I forgot, put it somewhere. We'll be fine. So we have our orange juice here. So if you have the orange zest, you want to add it into our pot here. And then we're going to add in some balsamic vinegar, 2 tablespoons balsamic vinegar. And then we're going to sweeten it up just a little because the orange juice naturally adds like a lot of great sweetness. But we're going to add some honey as well. We're going to add about a tablespoon. I like using honey in dressing. It helps to thicken it up. It also adds like a really great flavor. And then we're going to use our whisk here to nicely combine it. And you can add salt and pepper at this step as well. And then as we combine all of our ingredients, we're going to slowly drizzle in our olive oil just until it combines. And I like to do this slowly just so it doesn't kind of overflow or and also while you're whisking it, it kind of helps everything combine nicely. And you can also have kids help with this. A lot of like older kids especially like to whisk where they can help pour in the dressing. Sometimes it's nice to have an extra pair of hands. And the olive oil that I'm using is the extra virgin olive oil. So it has a little light flavor of olives, but you can also use canola oil if you have that, or vegetable oil. All right, the last of it goes in. And you can see it combines really nicely. All right, we'll set this aside. As we get the rest of our ingredients here, I'll stir my kale one more time. It looks more like soup now. The kale has shrunk. For those of you who are worried. All right, so now we have our collard greens here. So we do want to slice them up into nice ribbons, which I have most of it chopped up. But basically, you want to take out this big center stem. It is very fibrous. And since we're not cooking this, it won't break down at all. So we want to take the big center stem out. And again, kids can help with this. It's a great project for them. But if you're cooking your collard greens for hours on end, some of these fibrous stalks do break down, but I always recommend taking out like the bigger ones. They just take a long time to break down and it's not something fun to chew on. And also you can use any fresh greens like kale or spinach works well. If you're using kale, you'll also want to chop it up, but if you're using spinach, you just leave it whole. The whole leaves work great with this dressing. All right, so we have our collards here, and I like to just kind of roll it up, almost like a little burrito shape, and we're gonna cut them into like thin strips, just so since it is like a tougher green, you don't want like big pieces of collard greens in your mouth. So by cutting them into these thin strips, it helps to tenderize it, and it just makes it more enjoyable to eat. And it looks pretty too. So we have our nice salad here. You can see it fills the bowl nicely. Our soup is bubbling away. Just coming together. So nice. I wish you guys could smell this. I really wish there's smell-o-vision somehow on Facebook Live. So then we just drizzle on as much dressing as you'd like. This kind of made more than I would put on this salad. So really use your own judgment on how much dressing you'd like. This would keep in the fridge for a few days if you want to make another salad. And then you just want to toss it to combine. And then you'd garnish it with like the flavorings of your choice. So I would recommend like some thinly sliced red onion, a little cracked pepper, thinly sliced avocado, add some nice creaminess. And today I'm going to garnish it with some fresh oranges, so it adds like some nice bright color and more of that bright citrus flavor that we expect with our winter produce. So just a simple salad with something different and unique, and using winter greens in a different way. All right, so now we have our salad put together here. Clean up a little so you guys can see. And then I'm gonna ladle out our soup. Gosh, it looks beautiful. The dark green with the tomatoes and the orange sweet potatoes, and you can see the beans. So usually I'll garnish this with like a little bit of Parmesan cheese, but it doesn't really need it, so I'm not going to do it today. But I hope you enjoy this beautiful dinner, or it could be a lunch. Like today, I'm going to be sharing both of these recipes with my coworkers here at Operation Food Search. Both of these are packed full of so much winter produce: kale, collard greens, sweet potatoes, onions, citrus. So much amazing flavor and such a wide variety of flavor too. I truly hope you enjoyed today's episode and are inspired to try something new with winter produce. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions or made today's recipes, please leave us a comment below. Remember to like our page if you haven't already, and visit our website to learn more about our work and how we nourish and educate our neighbors in need to heal the hurt of hunger. We all at Operation Food Search hope you have a happy, healthy, and safe holiday season, however you choose to celebrate this year. I'll be back live after the winter holidays, so I'll see you in 3 weeks in the new year.